Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Big drama going down following the conclusion of the Super Team saga over the last couple of weeks. Toronto have lost two of their most valuable players. Los Angeles Thieves have gained them, and Scrap and Ghosty, among others, absolutely roasting the Toronto CEO. He definitely throws a shot at Thieves, but arguably this season, only one of those teams has a reasonable chance of World Championship success. Very much interested to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. Plenty to get into today as always. Where Crump's going to go next is a bit of a question right now. There are rumours linking him to the new Cloud9 team. Of course, Crump did a good job at the World Cup for sure. Good job at the World Championship. Thieves came top 4, top 2 at the end of the season. But they thought, can we upgrade Crump? Yes. Can we upgrade him to Envoy? Yeah, they did exactly that. Can we upgrade JoeDeceives to HyDra? They've now done exactly that as well. So Crump's on his next steps. We're pretty sure what Cloud9 are going to do is keep Sib around, get rid of the other two guys, bring a Tatch in alongside potentially Crump and Nero. That has been the rumoured SMG duo, and let's just have a look at that really, because we are pretty sure now on what at least like 11 teams are going to be. The 12th is somewhat unclear. We saw the rumour that we talked about yesterday that it might be Arcetes, Paul X, and then Estriel and Hook on the SMGs on Minnesota Rocker. I don't know so much about that. Things, of course, can change. But this is kind of how things are looking right now. FaZe, we know what that team is going to be. Boston, we know what that team is going to be. And then it kind of goes down to question marks, right? Los Angeles Thieves, you know what that's going to be. Obviously, Envoy, Ghosty, HyDra, and Scrap. The Miami team is basically locked, although one of these guys will have to be benched or dropped or whatever, because, you know, it's not 5 versus 5 this year again. OpTic, we know their team. We are pretty sure, well, we actually know what Falcons are doing. That's been confirmed with Coach Luty. So, but the other teams are in flux, as of course also known as the coach of the Toronto team. But this is the question, right? CleanX, Insight, Beans, and Joe. That's the current rumor. Pretty good, but look, is it as good as Los Angeles Thieves? No, not on paper. And it is quite interesting looking through these teams, right? Because you've got some teams, the FaZe is, the Thieves is, the OpTics that should be considered absolute best in the game. Then you've got other teams that honestly, every year I look at the rosters and I think, you know what, they don't look that bad. And often they are pretty bad. So I'm going to temper my expectations a little bit more this year than I usually do, because, you know, you can look at this Ravens team, you can look at this, even the Cloud9 team, or like, I don't really like the Surge team, to be honest. I'm not going to lie. I'm not convinced, personally, that they've cooked up a good roster there. And gentle mates with effectively the World Championship winning 2023 Subliners roster with Lins instead of HyDra. That's going to be fascinating too. But look, you can certainly see some positives on the way that these teams are being formed. Cloud9 are forming something quite interesting, but I'm not sure how good they're going to be, although I do have a lot of faith in accuracy if he's their head coach. So, you know, there's clearly an upper echelon. And then in the midfield, I think it could potentially be all over the place. Some of these teams will disappoint for sure. Some of these teams will exceed expectations for sure. And, you know, nothing is necessarily locked in apart from those teams I mentioned earlier. Boston have pretty much confirmed this is what they're going to do, keeping the World Cup team around, unless they change their mind last minute. And then, of course, we know the Falcons, and it goes down from there. Scrap, of course, is looking forward to teaming with Ghosty, believes they're going to be a phenomenal AR duo. Scrap, of course, has worked well with Insight, but that's one of the other exciting things about this new team, is that we don't really know how they're going to get along. I think that's what's exciting to me. It's not just the fact that it's Scrappy and HyDra, arguably the two best players in the game from two separate teams, joining forces to try and take down the juggernauts of COD and OpTic and FaZe, but it's actually that we don't know if it's going to work. Like, Scrap's only played with one main AR in Insight in his career. HyDra's been partnered with Kiz through pretty much all of his success. So, look, we know that those guys are incredible on their own. Obviously, that's a no-brainer. But, you know, we don't really know how it's going to work with a different situation, right? I mean, when Shotzzy and Pred joined up, they've had their difficulties getting the best out of each other. They've done it at times, not so at other times. When they did it, you know, they were winning championships, including the World Championship. When they didn't, they were, you know, crashing out dead last. So the teams always have issues. Thieves will be no exception, but whether they can, you know, deal with that appropriately and utilize the talent to the best, you know, on paper, I love the Scrap Ghosty duo, I love the HyDra Envoy duo. Whether it's actually going to work in reality is another question. But the big drama going down yesterday was involving, again, the Ultra CEO. So Adam Adamu, we've talked about it quite a lot because he said a fair bit over the last few weeks, and I shared this clip at the end of yesterday's video with Nadeshots basically calling him out and saying, look, I can't believe he effectively leaked our announcement before it happened, it's just in bad taste. Now, he didn't necessarily leak the announcement, but he did effectively, right? Because he tweeted this out, and he also tweeted out handshake emoji, but he literally said all of this on the 21st of September, long before Thieves announced their team. I think this was even a couple of days before the Thieves guys flew out to LA, or I guess actually to Dallas, I guess, to record the announcement video, because they did the podcast we saw yesterday, I think, from the Hex quarters. So I guess Hex lent them that facility to run their podcast. So anyway, the guys were flying out to, to do their announcement, and that was happening while the Toronto CEO was tweeting this: "We can't sustain the contracts we have," and then especially when he went on to say that some of the players have already done so, like they've already decided to choose the next steps. So literally confirming that some of the players on his team had just been sold and they'd come to an agreement, and we can't sustain the contracts. So he did effectively, like, when this happened, we knew that Scrap and Envoy had gone to Thieves. There was simply no other outcome. So Nadeshot was understandably frustrated that he had effectively, stolen their thunder. And we always talk about leaks, right, in COD, because it's exciting when you see the leaks of the different teams, because they're not always going to be true. Sometimes things change behind the scenes, so what was going to happen no longer happens, which nearly happened in this case when Gentlemates tried to swoop in and sign those guys instead, to our understanding. But obviously it would be a bombshell if nobody said anything about Thieves, and then just bang, it hits the timeline that they're signing HyDra and Scrap, and nobody knew anything about it before it initially happens. And, that's kind of exciting idea, but I tend to like the leak thing, obviously, because we get to talk about it for more days in a row. But the point, I guess, is that Adam here is effectively just, even the little bit of doubt that there was as to whether Thieves are getting those guys and whether the rumors were true, he kind of dispelled that by basically saying it without saying it. And Nadeshot wasn't happy about that. He didn't think that that conduct was, the way to do things, I guess. And I think Nadeshot also said in that clip that he has Adam blocked on Twitter as well. And he was like, I didn't know why I had it blocked, but now clearly there is a good reason for doing so. So then yesterday he follows up with it. So I think maybe Adam's trying to beef Nadeshot back a little bit here. I'm guessing this is League of Legends related, but he says, "We don't live in the universe with an MDK versus 100T for a pass in the semis is going to take place. One of us has to win, or this one has us winning tomorrow." And then he says, "Love the universe we're in. No worries for Talon. Hoodie Org will probably lose to Hawks, and either way, Talon will make it through." So, referring to 100T, of course, as the Hoodie Org. Now, this, I think, came around back in, I don't know who first said this. I don't know if it was Hastro or like from Envy or whatever, but the argument was back in the day, certainly the start of the CDL era, really, around that time, that there were some organizations focused on winning, right? That was always Envy's thing, that they were like, content's fine, but we're here to win. We're here to make World Championship Grand Finals and win them, which, to be fair, Envy have made, the most World Championship Grand Finals, and of course they won with Dallas Empire as well a couple of years later, and now they're kind of part of OpTic, they're kind of not. You know the story. But 100 Thieves, they've always obviously bankrolled their organization on some level by making content and selling hoodies. And it's funny how it works that you look at the content org, which is OpTic, look at their championship wins, world championships, multiple event wins. And sure, there's always a debate on whether the content side that OpTic do does take anything away from their competitiveness in the server. But look, they still won champs this year. The Hoodie Org, are they a world championship winning team? Yeah, they won it a couple of years ago. They've won multiple events since. So, it's a good little tagline to say 100 Thieves are a Hoodie Org, but I'm not necessarily sure that it really works in reality, when the fact of the matter is that Thieves as an organization have been more successful than Toronto in terms of executing, and at least Thieves can win a World Championship Grand Final. When Toronto got there, on both occasions they got there, it didn't end especially well. So Adam, of course, was chirping a little bit to 100 Thieves, and I thought that the response from the Thieves guys was absolutely sensational. So Ghosty says the following: "I whooped that ass as a Hoodie Org and then stole your most valuable players afterwards," right? So, maybe fair enough, especially at the end of the season, right, at the World Championship and then at EWC, Thieves over Ultra was a big storyline, and then not only did Ghosty win those couple of series when it mattered, especially at the World Cup, and he's also stolen their best players, trying to brought Scrappy and Envoy alongside him as well. So, it was just interesting, right? As Rotation answers, calling 100 to a Hoodie Org after you just let your franchise player join them is crazy, because, as Ronnie says, if Ultra sold more hoodies, maybe they could have kept the team together, right? Like, if they were selling more hoodies, if they're making more money, they'd have had the money to do this. So, it's not like Ultra's merch is bad, but 100T do a great job of it, and everyone knows that. That's why they get called a Hoodie Org, but it shouldn't be a bad thing. Like, Hoodie Org should actually be a compliment, I would say, because, they're able to keep on a successful roster and also have a brand that people care about. Like Hoodie Org, I think is actually a big compliment personally, but you know, it's been labeled as something of a criticism, and Scrappy then collapsed back big time. I'm assuming this is about, you know, Adam, right, and the situation on Toronto, because everyone in the replies is assuming that it is, and Scrappy didn't say, oh no, I meant some other guy. Like, he just says that guy's a freak. So, you know, I'm sure that Scrappy would have wanted to stay on Toronto as a city, as an organization. Obviously, there's girls there, and like Toronto's a great place. So I think Scrappy didn't necessarily want to leave, but it just makes sense what he's doing, of course. Joining Thieves, especially going to Texas, like they're going to be based out there for the season, makes way too much sense. And maybe one of the benefits of Scrappy is that he doesn't have to work under Adam anymore. I don't know. Clearly, he wasn't so happy with the situation over there. And there was also this that Ghost of Hope said. I'm not really sure we ever heard this rumored. Maybe we did at some point. I kind of forget. But he asked the question to Scrap, of course, no response to this one. Is it true he put you guys on bench salary during the off-season, which no other org has ever done in the history of the CDL? Which, to be fair, given the money issues of Ultra, would actually add up. But it's, you know, an interesting thing to do, right? Because some organizations, the real poverty orgs, they just fire their whole team after champs and then re-sign them 3-4 months later, so they don't have to pay their salary for those 3 months of the year. Whereas a serious organization that has good players, they can't do that. So they have to keep the players on. But apparently, you know, in Toronto's case, they're just going to put them on a bench salary for the time they're not playing, so they have to pay them less money, right? Which is, you know, is maybe not the way that things should be done, although financially, I guess it's kind of smart, whatever you want to say. And then 100T went even further. So hoodieorg.org takes you to the Thieves website, and they also added code GRAZEN for 10% off your orders. So if you go to the 100 Thieves website here, you'll find you know, stuff on the roster announcement. You've got Scrappy, like it says Hoodie Org on the left-hand side as well. And then if you scroll down, it says Hoodie Org, use code GRAZEN to get an extra 10% off your hoodie. So and I'm sure that they've actually made a killing from this, because some of these hoodies are on sale already, and people know that the hoodies they make are kind of nice. I've actually been really tempted to get one with code GRAZEN, I'm not gonna lie. It's actually pretty tempting right now, because so it is phenomenal marketing work here from 100T as ever. And they just completed the absolute full circle roast of Adam and Toronto by concluding that, okay, yeah, we are a Hoodie Org, sure, come buy some of our hoodies, you'll get 10% off if you use code GRAZEN for promoting it. And fair play to Adam, because, you know, he might be a controversial character, but he did take this relatively well and was like, you know, fair play, touche, this is pretty funny. But I do wonder whether we're going to hear any more about the behind-the-scenes stuff at Toronto soon. If you guys remember this guy, Connor Chambers, who was formerly a manager over at Toronto, last year, I think he did a stream, and he leaked quite a lot of things about what had happened behind the scenes with the roster and some other details. So I do wonder whether the same could happen again. Is Connor going to go live or say something, right? And he says, like, if this is what you see on the timeline, right, in terms of drama regarding the Toronto organization, then just imagine what's actually going on behind the scenes. And then, you know, he goes on to say, one day I promise, like, I'll do a tell-all on stream. I think he kind of did one last year, but I think maybe I'm sure there's more to say. So, yeah, fascinating to hear your thoughts in the comment section below, whether having, you know, Scrappy departed the organization, now Envoy departing the organization, there'll be some stories from behind the scenes at Toronto. I think definitely Ultra turned their rep around over the last few years. Back in the day, let's say like Cold War days, when there was drama around Looney and drama around Brack, I think especially during those times, that they weren't having any good PR. And also the Cammy stuff, right, when the sensitivity training happened. But over the last few years, Toronto have turned around their reputation, but you know, maybe not for too much longer, I don't know. So very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.